Good evening, all, and welcome to the Muscle Health Foundation Charity's 37th In Conversation with broadcast, hosted by myself, Michael McGrath. And if you're joining us for the first time, a very, very warm welcome to you all to tonight's show. As many of you will know, these conversations are all about interesting guests and personalities sharing their stories and their insights. And as the host, well, I seek and I try hard to encourage free flowing conversations. I'm going to try and get my words out this evening. It's been a long day, peppered with some fun in getting up close and personal with our now infamous quick fire rounds. I'm sure that our guest is looking forward to those. Ultimately, these conversations are designed to speak first and foremost to our tribe of muscle warrior families, our community across the UK, children and young people between the ages of 8 and 28 who have the muscle wasting disease, muscular dystrophy. And they're also an opportunity for families and, of course, those with an interest or connection or link with a guest to also tune in. So to all the mums and dads, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunties, PAs and carers, devoted wives, girlfriends, and everyone, plus all of our charity friends and supporters, welcome to each and every one of you. So, these conversations are also a really good way of piquing the public's curiosity in attracting new audiences and by default generating new support, much needed, vital support for the charity's mission in delivering 657 muscle dream interventions. As you all know by now, that's one for every muscle in the human body. And currently, to date, we're at 424. So, before we welcome tonight's guest, here are a few quick housekeeping points. Firstly, a safeguarding note. As always, we have eyes over tonight's show, streaming live on the charity's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn channels. So, if any inappropriate comments are observed, action will be taken. And secondly, all shows are recorded, meaning that audiences in this country or indeed anywhere across the planet can watch past episodes whenever they want to. How about that for service? Right, moving on, I'd like to invite you to head on over to the charity's YouTube channel, search for Dreammaker 657, don't forget the double M in the middle, and hit the subscribe button. So subscribe, please. And for those that don't know, our third series kicks off in March 2022 with 12 shows across the year. That's one a month. So please be sure you opt in to receive the charity's news updates. And if you'd like to learn more about our impact, perhaps you're looking for a charity to adopt, your business is looking to adopt a charity, or maybe you've got a link or a creative fundraising idea around how you can leverage our magic number 657, or perhaps you're looking for a 2022 fundraising challenge. Either way, please get in touch and let's see how we can support your efforts going forwards. So, onwards with tonight's show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute privilege. I'm really looking forward to this evening, actually. It's my absolute privilege to introduce tonight's guest, who describes himself as a disabled entrepreneur, dad, and traveler. Please give a very warm welcome to Angus Drummond. Hi there, Angus. How's it going?
Hi, Michael. Good evening. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Really great to have you with us tonight. Before we kick off, I've got to ask, Angus, where exactly are you in the UK tonight?
Tonight, I am at home in my house or my bungalow in Solihull.
In Solihull. Excellent. Shout out to Solihull. So, Angus, we first met. I was looking back at the diaries. We first met about 5 years ago in June 2016 in Milton Keynes over some lunch, and then again over some more lunch in Cambridge with our respective wives in October 2017. And I recall that first meeting as an eye-opening moment in time. You know, when you walked into the restaurant and you sat down and we chatted for a fair few hours, didn't we? And I dropped you off at the station. Tell us more. Tell us how that all unfolded.
Yeah, I remember the day very clearly. I think we met in an Italian restaurant in Milton Keynes, and for me it was a hugely impactful day. I think in my life. Um, Having probably been diagnosed, I think, with muscular dystrophy a couple of years before that, I'd never really met anybody with muscular dystrophy, let alone anybody with exactly the same condition. I have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy type 2A, as obviously you do as well, Michael. And it was, I suppose, in the build up to the day, I felt quite nervous and it was fairly nerve wracking because I didn't know what to expect. And I felt that I would be meeting a future version of myself, and having a chance to sort of see what the future might have in store for me. But from the moment I met you, I was completely reassured, and all my worries are sort of put at ease. And I think we hit it off straight away, and spent numerous hours in that lunch. I think they almost had to chuck us out by the end of it. Luckily we were both driving, otherwise I'm sure there would have been quite a lot of wine drunk at the time.
I remember that occasion because in you I saw myself in terms of some of the physicalities of sitting and standing and getting up off the table and holding your water glass. And it was interesting as when we spoke and we chatted about that, didn't we? And it was quite an interesting moment in time of how that unfolded. And you're right, we have exactly the same variant, which is quite extraordinary.
I think for me in the build up to that day, it was quite early on in my journey, I suppose, of sort of coming to terms with muscular dystrophy. I think I'd gone through the first hurdle of denial and sort of then accepting it, and then it was really beginning to embrace it. I think for me, sort of meeting you on that day was probably a watershed moment in my journey of acceptance and embracing and sort of taking it as part of my life. Because you do worry about the future, and concern for anybody is going to be the unknown, and you just don't know what's going to happen. I think when you have a diagnosis that tells you that you are gradually going to get less mobile and lose your mobility and lose your freedom essentially over the coming years, you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think when I met you, and obviously you were using a wheelchair and a power chair, but to me that very quickly became accepted that very quickly, and it and didn't think that was a problem, and seeing the freedom with which you moved and the freedom with which you enjoyed life and the freedom with which you were able to embrace everything, and the sort of the positivity of which you spoke. And it was only a small thing, but I remember when I shook hands with you and I felt just how strong your grip was.
Yes.
When I felt your hand grip, I was like, oh, okay, this is great. As long as I'm not going to lose the grip of my hands, and I can still, and I saw you eating and drinking and having dinner, and from that moment, I think it was.
And driving you back to the station.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and seeing your car, you had the prize. I don't know if you still have that car, but it was a great.
No, sadly, Knight Rider has moved on, so we're getting close to Knight Rider 2. But watch this space.
Well, sequels are almost as good as the originals.
So listen, disabled entrepreneur, dad, and traveler. So let's kick off with the dad bit, shall we? You're a family man, right? So congrats, by the way, to you and your devoted beloved Lucy. Hi, Lucy. I know she's there. So it's in terms of your new arrival, Arlo, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, Lucy's trying to quietly creep around in the background, but yeah, Lucy, I can't take any credit really for the children. Lucy is wonderful mum, absolutely incredible, and gave birth to our second son Arlo in July, weighing in at a very light 9.5 pounds. So he was a big baby, and he's even a bigger baby now. I think he's something on the 97th percentile. So he's going to be the brute strength that looks after me and us when we're all a bit older.
Yeah, fantastic. How are you getting much sleep, you guys?
Yeah, it's better now. First few months were pretty terrible, and I think that when you think one child is hard, actually one child in hindsight is very easy. It's the second one that really puts it into perspective. When you sort of up all night with the baby, and then you finally put them down and get to sleep at 5:30, and then the first child wakes up at 6, ready to go to school. Some tough days in the summer, but we're through the worst of it now.
But I'd imagine bringing you both immense joy.
Huge amount of joy. I mean, for me, for me, having children just puts everything into perspective. And I think
wonderful.
bad your day is or stressed out you're feeling, coming home to the boys is the most amazing feeling.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm going to jump into the chat room just for a quick observation. Good evening to Shay. Hi, Shay. Muscle warrior to you, Shay. And to Zakia. Hi to Zakia Begum. Lovely to see you. Welcome all. So listen, Angus, take us back to your investment banking days, all right? So to when your diagnosis of muscular dystrophy was made, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. 23 at the time when I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. I was it's always difficult to sort of know where the sort of story begins. I think for me, in hindsight, probably began in my teens. There was early signs then of limitations. I used to love playing rugby and playing sports. But by about 15, 16, just couldn't really participate to the same level. It was also the part of my life that I probably started enjoying a more active social life, going to parties and meeting with friends and going to the pub. So I sort of put it down to that initially. But then by my early 20s, I'd noticed, just difficulty with many sort of day-to-day things, climbing stairs and running. And when I joined London and took a job in the city of London, is for RBS and their investment bank, and there was sort of within a couple of years just really struggled. A lot of day-to-day activities began falling over on the tube a couple of times, which wasn't a great experience. More sort of when the tube broke, and as much as I love London, there's not many friendly people in London who are willing. I think they thought I'd had a bit too many gin and tonics at 8:30 in the morning on the way to work, which even though I assured people not, it was always a bit of an upsetting time. And after about a year of consultations and meetings, I was then sort of, basically told the news that I had muscular dystrophy, and really within about 10 years would lose my mobility to walk and ability to get about.
So was that the catalytic moment, if you like, or that spontaneity of where you decided to, quit the job and basically go traveling? Is that right?
The story I'd like to tell is that, the day of the diagnosis, the day after, packed the bags and, said goodbye to my life in London. But I think for anybody, who's had a diagnosis of any sort, be it muscular dystrophy or any sort of serious health condition, no matter how strong you are and resilient, there comes a period where you do go into a level of mental decline, and that sort of that ability to accept something so fundamentally changing to your life and completely altering to everything you ever expected your life would go and become, and raising questions, everything about yourself and who you are, was a huge psychological challenge. I think huge amount of denial I went through. I didn't talk to people about it, refused to speak to my friends about it, refused to speak to my family about it, refused to speak to Lucy about it, and just felt that if I didn't talk about it, it wouldn't be there. But yet every moment of every day, it's all I could think about, and I didn't know how to talk to anybody about it. And I had this sort of feeling, I just wanted to get it out of my head. And it was just like, is this what my life is going to be like now, that every moment of every day, all I can think about is muscular dystrophy?
Yeah.
And that was a hugely difficult time, which I pretended like it wasn't, and I always put on a brave face. And I think most people around me probably wouldn't have noticed it, but inside it was a huge challenge. But, it was from coming to terms with that and beginning to get used to it. And really, I had amazing support from Lucy. She was brilliant and really got me to talk about what was going on and how that would affect us. And I'd always been saving money while I was working at RBS. My dream was to buy a bar in Brazil and move out there. And I've always wanted to run a business, and that's the best idea I could think of. But still in the pipeline. But been saving up some money, and we've always loved traveling and going away. So we just decided to quit our jobs and go traveling around the world and just have some time away to really use to come to terms with what the future would have in store.
I have two cousins in Brazil, one that works for IBM, the other works for HSBC. So we'll have a conversation offline on that one.
Okay, great. Maybe they're still hoping the dream yet. So
absolutely, you've got to have a dream, right? So I had this kind of notion in my mind that setting off with your Lucy and traveling the world, and you clocked over 35 countries. And you did some canoeing in Vietnam, and you did some climbing when you were obviously more able and more mobile to the top of Machu Picchu, right? So life is all about those amazing experiences that clearly you've had. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to know where to begin. I think when I start talking about travel, it just fills me with such passion and excitement. I've always just loved the feeling of escape and just leaving somewhere and going to a new place, and everything that comes with that, the excitement, the nervousness, and being able to have the opportunity to go and explore the world in the way that we did was a real dream come true. And we left London and left our jobs with the purpose of having a bit of a break and just having some time together away from our friends and family and just to ourselves to really come to terms with the condition. But it ended up to being so much more. Travel is an amazing experience. The perspective I think that it gives you when you want to go away, it's even if you're just stressed out of work or whatever it might be, just that feeling of freedom that you can get from travel is nothing else. It's the most amazing thing in life, I believe. Nothing that money can buy.
I'm going to throw a quote at you. Here's the quote: "Limitless travel is more than a travel company. To be limitless is a mindset. It means to push yourself to experience things you didn't think it possible to achieve," which I think is a really nice segue to start to talk or have the conversation steering more towards limitless travel, which I think was born off the back of your traveling experiences of seeing the world back with a disability, right? So that was the motivation that started to emerge. Is that right?
Yes, certainly. And it was, whilst on those experiences that were really life-changing for me, and it was the travel that helped me come to terms with my condition.
Yeah.
And you realize that actually this perspective it gave me that actually I would be able to be able to deal with what life had in store. And it gave me the renewed, ability to come back home and talk to people about it. However, when I was away, travel became so difficult. This thing that I loved so much, that was the most important thing for me, just became a challenge. And to the point that there were times on our trip where we decided we considered having to go home. We were stuck in a boat on the Galapagos Islands because we couldn't get out, and all these things like not being able to get on buses and some quite dangerous situations that we weren't able to prepare for because there was no information available, no support available, and no expert knowledge. And I thought, that's ridiculous. Why is there not travel for disabled people? Why can disabled people not travel? And nobody was catering to disabled people. There were no options out there, no support, and it really frustrated me. I got back to England with this renewed, this amazing experience, but this anger that disability travel didn't exist. And I looked around for things in the UK, and there was nothing. And I thought, this is a disgrace. There's so many millions of disabled people out there, so many people that want to travel more than anybody else, and quite frankly deserve to travel more than anybody else, because the things that people have to face on a day-to-day basis, that they deserve a break more than anybody else does. But yet it wasn't happening, and travel companies excluded them. And with that anger, and this passion, but also belief of just how important travel can be in people's life, and how I believe that travel can really help people come to terms with their conditions and their life, and really help them face up to any challenges. I wanted to create a company that not just enabled people to travel, but actively empowered them. And for me, that's what the mindset and concept of Limitless was about. And this idea that you could use travel to do more than give people holidays, to ultimately, just for many people, just make people feel normal. And that's something that so many people take for granted. But I think when you're disabled or you have some challenges, the feeling of normal is something that's so rare and so special that, I think that's something that we always try and deliver.
Just going to dive into the chat room. Chris, good evening. Thank you very much for your lovely comment. Amazingly positive outlook, Angus. And good evening, David. You're not late at all in joining, David. A muscle warrior salute to you both. So the world of accessible travel has certainly changed, Angus. The market's changed, right? And the needs and the wants of disabled customers, I believe, have also changed. When I think back of where, for example, accessible travel was just, 15 years ago, and where we are today, the choice, the options, the number of operators available, niche or otherwise, for disabled friendly holidays are immense. But you've got to drill into the detail, haven't you? It's always the way. It's all about information is knowledge, right? How do you see the market evolving going forwards?
It's a really interesting observation, a really good observation. I think that when I came back from my travels 6 years ago, that there was very limited options, and the first result was very medicalized looking websites, and completely the opposite of what I have experienced as travel and what I imagine it to be. But in that time, Limitless has grown from an idea in my head to now an international travel company. But there's also other operators that seem have grown as well. Ones in America and others in Europe and the UK. And it's great, it's brilliant. There's so many people out there that need it, and it's not ever going to be one organization that solves the problem. It's a collaborative effort. And from a business point of view, people say, well, there's other companies, how do you deal with the competition? But it's not competition. We all offer a unique service, and we all support each other. There's another disabled travel company in Birmingham, and I meet their CEO regularly for lunch, or at least we did prior to lockdown. But we share ideas and talk things through and talk about the difficulties, because traveling with a disability is hard. We all know that it's incredibly hard. Like it's not, normal travel companies can just book somebody and get them away. The amount of hours we have to spend planning each person's trip is ridiculous. Yeah. It's a challenge, but so we share ideas and we share tips. And I think the more that people do it and the more services offer it, be it blogs or companies, the greater the problem is going to get solved.
Well, listen, we've got a lot to get through this evening, so I'm just going to move the conversation on a little bit. You reference yourself as a disabled entrepreneur. Just tell us a little bit more. What's the perspective there?
Well, it's an interesting question, because when people sort of ask how you sort of describe yourself, and there's many things, and I think prior to ever setting up Limitless, I would probably use a number of different words. But being disabled and being an entrepreneur are two really fundamental aspects of my life now. And there was a period, I think, for both being an entrepreneur and being disabled, I almost sort of didn't want that to take over my identity. I wanted to be known as Angus, who I was, not Angus the disabled man, or not Angus the businessman. Yeah. However, both of those, being disabled and being an entrepreneur, have hugely impacted my life, primarily for the positive. And it's something that I really embrace now, and I'm proud to call myself disabled, and I'm proud to call myself an entrepreneur.
Brilliant. What guidance or advice, Angus, would you give, just briefly, for example, to young disabled entrepreneurs today, who perhaps, want to start their own business?
There's a huge amount of advice that you can give, and we could probably talk for hours about that, but I realize we've only got a limited amount of time, so I'll try and keep it succinct. But I think for me, it's just having that absolute belief, and just, when you cannot see any end goal in sight, you have nothing but a blank sheet of paper in front of you, nothing just but an empty laptop. When literally just starting off with all you have is an idea and a vision, just keep working at it, keep going, keep working hard. It doesn't matter how good you are at anything. I believe if you have a passion, you have a belief, you work hard and you're patient, that things will come. And they might not, they might not expect the way that you expect it to, but you might then fail a little bit. Then just keep trying and just keep going and be resilient and keep working, and eventually things will come up. Success doesn't happen overnight. I don't believe that any successful person has become successful without hard work and patience. Some do it quicker than others. Some do it in less chances than others. You might get lucky first time. It might be the 10th time, but just keep going.
Great advice. Keep trying. So, listen, if you're keen to explore how Limitless Travel can help you travel without limits, and you're perhaps looking to discover a world of new possibilities of accessible holidays that are stress-free, get this, stress-free, worry-free, and hassle-free. Wouldn't that be amazing? All right, stress-free, worry-free, hassle-free, then head on over to limitlesstravel.org. And as always, if you'd just like to say hello or put a question to Angus directly, you know what you need to do. Pop your question on whatever channel you're watching on this evening, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, and a member of our volunteer online studio team will pick it up. So, Angus, before we chat some more, a bit of a gear change, all right? You'll hopefully be familiar with our quick fire rounds, allowing basically our audience to get to know our guest a little bit more. So, Angus, are you ready?
I hope so. I hope I don't ever say the wrong thing. I'll try and think before I speak. So.
Excellent. Go for it. Well, let's go for it. Here we go. Scrambled, poached, or fried eggs, Angus?
Poached.
One song that puts Angus in a great mood?
Lovely Day by Bill Withers.
Nice. Most used emoji on Angus's smartphone?
Probably sort of semi-confused drunk face look.
Very good. A study by the University of Wisconsin found that drinking this can reduce blood clots and the risk of heart attacks. The drink contains antioxidants and folate, a nutrient that we all need to make DNA and other genetic material. Its alcohol content is much lower in its draft form. What drink am I referring to?
Its alcohol content is much lower in its draft form. IPA?
Guinness. I know you love Guinness.
I do like a Guinness. And it's Six Nations starting at the weekend, so it's Guinness time of the year, which is great.
You heard it here. You heard it here. So one item that Angus would take to a desert island.
My music.
Okay.
iPod. I was going to say records, but I don't think that'd do very well on a desert island. So I'd bring some music with me.
Very good. The best rugby player that Scotland have ever had.
There's not many. Gavin Hastings, for sure.
Okay, interesting. I was going to say Stuart Hogg, but there we go.
Yeah. Well, people always remembered better after they finished their career. I'm sure.
What film is loosely based on the true story of the Jamaican national bobsleigh team's debut in competition during the 1988 Winter Olympics? Was it A, Cold Runnings, B, Cool Runnings, or C, Ice Runnings?
Jamaica, we have a bobsleigh team. It's Cool Runnings.
Excellent, well done. So when Angus is brushing his teeth, does Angus use bamboo, plastic, or an electric toothbrush?
Electric toothbrush.
And so finally on this particular round, Angus, you're the PM for 24 hours. One change that you'd make today.
Big question. I would legalize all parties and make having a 24-hour party legal for everybody.
Okay. Angus, I'm going to pop up a series of photos. And I'd like to invite you to tell us a little bit more about, what's going on with each pic. So let's move on to the first one.
That is a very younger looking me and child-free looking me on my wedding day with my beautiful wife, Lucy. And
something fundamentally that I observed about that picture, that your devoted beloved has a full glass of champagne and yours is empty.
It was a very hot day, I have to admit. So, and it's mostly work getting married. So,
very good. Next picture.
This is the story of us in the Times newspaper. Somebody contacted me and I told my story and they said it'd be in the paper, believing it was going to be a little sort of snippet announcing the marriage, and then turned out to be a full page spread. So we're very proud of that.
Excellent. And what's going on here? Where are you here?
Brilliant. That's me in Tenerife, paragliding. I was on one of the Limitless Travel holidays and wanted to attempt accessible paragliding. So
love it.
Never been more scared in my life.
It's a fantastic picture. What about this next pic? Where are we?
In Cologne, in Germany. And you can see the Cathedral of Cologne just behind you. And there is a famous bridge there. And I believe the Lover's Gate is on the bridge. And part of the bridge, you're supposed to leave a padlock on there and write a message to your loved one.
Okay. Did you do that?
We did. I did, yes, with Lucy. So.
Excellent. Tell us about this lady.
That is a lady called Marie Gordon, who is one of our Limitless Travelers. She's a lovely lady, Scottish lady, and really, really wonderful. She has a disability. Not sure, I can't remember exactly what type, but she, unfortunately lives in an inaccessible house in Edinburgh. So on a day-to-day basis, is stuck indoors. And she travelled with us for the first time a couple of years ago on a trip in England. And when she was there, she was telling us about how difficult it is for her to get out of her house, even to go to the shops. And a couple of years later, she travelled with us to go to Tenerife after building up her confidence. And she went paragliding on one of our Tenerife trips and paragliding across Tenerife. And when she landed, she said to me, Angus, because of you and at Limitless, it was easier for me to go paragliding in Tenerife than it was to go for my Morrison's to get some milk.
Thank you for sharing that. Next pic, please.
Well, this is a lovely couple of limitless travelers, Jamie and Danielle Swan. Wonderful couple, and they travel with us fairly regularly. And this is them going quad biking or triking in Tenerife.
Triking.
Triking.
Yeah. That's a beast of a trike, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, you have to test all these things, or at least have the experience, right?
Yes. We have. It's a very difficult job going to all these places and testing these amazing experiences. Unfortunately, I was in the Caribbean for 2 weeks before Christmas, testing out a destination there, which was an amazing 2 weeks. It was a fantastic break, and went to this brilliant resort that we use for Limitless, whereby it's just completely accessible. It's accessible to the beach. Lovely independent boutique hotel. You get to the beach. It's step free, and there's a very gentle, slope in, and no current, no waves. So, for anybody with a disability knows going in the sea is, it's difficult, but this was amazing. And you could just float in the sea and stare up at the sun and just forget about the world around you.
Nice. Next pick, please.
Well, these are some lovely group shots from Limitless. So the main one is us in Tenerife, enjoying a stroll along the accessible promenade after a few drinks at one of the bars there, before heading back to the hotel for some karaoke. The top right is our first ever trip to Devon back in 2017, when Limitless was in its very first year. And it was a sort of benchmark trip for us to prove that the idea that I had could work and could get people away for the first time on holiday. The one below was this year in the Isle of Wight, just on a town called Freshwater in the Isle of Wight. And then the bottom one is also in Tenerife as well, on the same trip as one on the left. Enjoying some time at the accessible beach there.
So lovely to see. Clearly everyone is enjoying themselves because, their expressions of joy and enjoyment are coming through loud and clear. Next pick, please.
Well, these are some good picks. This was at an awards event on the left. In 2018, we were awarded the NatWest Entrepreneur for Good Award. And as you do most times at an award ceremony, I sort of turned up having no expectation to win, and started enjoying some of the nice wine on the table with my colleague Jonathan. And and suddenly we were announced as the winner, and difficult enough for me to get up out of a chair and onto a stage at the best of times. So, I made it up there. I was able to collect the award, and was beaming with happiness after. And in the middle, that's at my brother's wedding, where I'm wearing a kilt and doing my best pose. And that was down in Petersfield in the south of England, where he married his lovely wife, Charlie. And then it was a very cold and misty day, beautiful day. And then the last one is one of my favourite ever photos, and that's me walking out into the beach at Mousehole in Cornwall, and Alfie was 18 months old. And, my wife Lucy's parents have a flat in Penzance, an amazing flat that we go down to on holiday, and we go down there a couple of times a year. And this was me and Alfie walking into the beach at Mousehole, which is a lovely part of the world.
It's a special place, Mousehole. Having been there myself, it really is a rather magical location. And that was when I spotted that picture, I thought I recognized that location.
It's great. And great cafe next door that do amazing bacon sandwiches. That's the only reason I keep going. So
very good. Okay, next pick, please. What's going on here? What is Mr. Ainsley Harriott doing there?
Oh, that's Ainsley Harriott on an apron of mine that my sister-in-law Laura gave me for Christmas. And I can't remember what the catchphrase is, but it's something fairly inappropriate to do with Ainsley Harriott's meat. So I won't say anything more.
Very good. Excellent.
In front of his face is 2 cocktails that are made inspired by a trip to the Caribbean sweeties, which were
excellent,
highly calorific.
Very good. Next pick, please. So where are we? What's going on here, Angus?
Oh, that's me with my brother Edwin and 2 sisters, Lorna and Shona. We were at Lord's watching England versus India in the cricket. And it's our first time sort of together for ages. So we're sitting watching the cricket. And then as much as we wanted to watch the cricket, we decided it'd be better to go to one of the bars around the back and have a good catch up. And we went for a pint and ended up staying for a few more. And when we got back, we found us, people are sitting in our seats, and we had to ask them to move. And literally, as soon as we sat down, we were suddenly put on the camera, and we were very happy at that point.
Excellent. And the next pick, and you probably consumed a few of these along the way, right? Because I know
I'm not sure what that is actually. Is that? Oh, not really prone to a Guinness. So. Yes, I'm looking forward to enjoying a few of those at the weekend.
And last pick in this series of images, I remember this day very well, and it was a joy to meet Alfie for the first time.
Yeah, that's a lovely photo of you. And as I understand it, you are now a granddad yourself, or a
Granddude.
Yeah. So, but this was Alfie, who took a shining to you from the first moment he met you. I remember he was able to sit in your lap for a while, and but very relaxed with you, Michael. But
we've got a special little muscle warrior.
Yeah, we ran a fundraising day for the Muscle Hope Foundation at Limitless, and did a cake sale, and put on some events in the office and stuff, which was great.
Good stuff. So I'm going to jump back into the chat room and just have a quick catch up. Zakia says, I love what you said about feeling normal, Angus, normalizing. Great comment. David, brilliantly, exciting approach and can-do attitude, Angus. Well, we need that, don't we? That can-do attitude. It's a really, really important ingredient or an attribute. And Chris, hi Chris, good evening to you. Muscle Warrior salute to Chris, one of our previous guests. Oh, goodness me, we could spend all night talking about this one. I'm going to ask you, Angus, for just a very brief answer. I'm sure we've both got perspectives on this, but are hotels becoming more accessible? Question from Chris.
Yes. There's a long way to go, but they are.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Another question for Chris. Chris Stride, what is the biggest hurdle disabled travellers face from an industry perspective? So again, I'd ask you to keep it fairly brief, please.
Three things: finding the information that you need, trusting that the information you find is reliable, and then lastly, getting support when you are away for people that understand your needs.
Good answer. Thank you so much. Somebody called Edwin Drummond. Any relation to you by any chance?
That is actually my brother. Yes.
Your bro. Hello to Edwin. Great to tune in tonight and hear the conversation between you both. If possible, I have a question for you, Michael. What advice would you give to Angus and his family about living your life to the full with muscular dystrophy? Great question, Edwin. Do you know what? I'm going to defer the answer because Angus knows what that answer is. And I'll let Angus talk to you about our connection and the meetings that we've had over lunches. And I'll let you articulate that, Angus. That's probably the best thing. David said, tell us about, thank you for the question, Edwin. Great question. David says, tell us a bit more about being proud about being both disabled and an entrepreneur. Some would find this quite a difficult thing to balance. It's an interesting observation. Angus?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, when you're disabled and you start anything in life, you're starting 2 steps behind everybody else, really, or sometimes more, depending on your level of need. And you are having to start always in a harder position. And every day it takes you twice as long, if not longer, to get ready. And every evening it takes you twice as long. And everything takes longer.
Yeah.
So everything is much harder, to the point that I have gone to meetings before in London. I've had to rush down and struggle with the train and get there, fall over just before I get to the meeting, and turn up in, everything that's gone wrong has gone wrong. But I've had to stand in a room with other, and present to potential investors or clients, whatever. And, as much as you might try and explain your situation, you have to come from a position of strength always. And that is one of the hardest things, I think. But, you just have to get up through it and just have to get over it. And you just have to keep focusing on what you're trying to achieve and keep focusing on the end goal.
That's good advice. I would add to that, I just say everything is in the planning. I mean, I have to plan my life like a military operation wherever I'm going out and about, although over the last 2 years, that's not been the case a great deal, right? But planning is that sort of upfront investment in success, right? So,
sorry, Mike, just on that note, the planning, and that, I think that is so important, but, once again, the challenge, if you think how much of your energy and time goes into planning, that's time that as a non-disabled entrepreneur, you can be focusing on something else. That is difficult, but yet that sort of planning and perspective that you get from being disabled actually then helps you at other stages, whereby you can plan things with such rigor for whatever you're doing that actually you come out in a much stronger position.
There's another Drummond fan who's popped into the chat room. Charlie. Hi, Charlie. Who's Charlie, Angus?
That is my brother's wife, actually. So good to see the family listen to my messages.
It's nice to see the family support, right? Question from Angus: what advice would Angus give to someone just receiving a diagnosis, and how should they approach life ahead of them, making sure they still live life to the full? We've kind of answered that one, haven't we, already? But Angus, do you want to give a quick synopsis there?
I think the advice I'd give in living life to the full is it's a tricky one. I just think that, you know, I think in a sense being disabled gives you a perspective to not you have such a big problem in your life that you're in a way it's liberating, because you don't focus on the small problems. You don't care what people think of you or how they look at you or the little issues that go on. Your problems are so much bigger that actually you have this freedom just to sort of live life in a stronger way, I believe, and without concern for petty things that other people may worry about too much.
Natasha said, a real inspiration, with a little smiley face for you, Angus. We can't help but feel encouraged and uplifted. Thank you, Angus, for all that you're doing for the disabled community. Here's to being a muscle warrior. Thank you so much, Natasha.
Well, salute to that as well.
I'm going to come back into the chat room a little later on, but we're nearly 45 minutes through this 60-minute chat. Can you believe it? So I'm going to have to pick the pace up a little bit. I do want to chat a little bit about parenthood, and I think you've already touched on it. But what does it mean to you? How has being a dad, being a parent, changed your life?
Yeah, it's difficult to remember what life was like before being a parent. So, yeah, I mean, being a parent is the biggest fundamental change I think that anybody can go through. I mean, I can't speak for every necessarily disabled person, because I don't know what everybody's experience is like. But I think for me, losing my mobility was one thing and a challenge. However, the change in life that being a parent puts on you, is unfathomable, really. And it's a huge fundamental change. And I think something that a lot of people underestimate. And it's hugely difficult at so many times to manage it. However, it is one of the most rewarding, probably the most rewarding, it is without doubt the most rewarding and amazing thing that you could ever have. And just the life and experience you have with your children, and no matter how bad your day is, how sad you're feeling, how troublesome you're feeling, when you come home and you see your children and they smile at you and give you a hug and give you a kiss, it just put everything to one side. And yeah, for me, it's amazing. And my children give me a huge amount of strength and really drive me forward for what I'm doing. And the only success I want in life is for my children to think of me, in the best possible way, and to sort of respect me for who I am.
So from parenting to clubbing, what a lovely segue. I gather that you like clubbing and a bit of Ibiza on occasion. So tell us more. Come on, you've obviously been down to Ibiza, but let's we can talk briefly about Glastonbury or Latitude or Download, wherever it is you go. Accessible music festivals. What's talk to me about your clubbing, your love of clubbing.
Yeah, so I say being a parent is the most amazing thing. I mean, sometimes nothing beats a good night out. So I think maybe clubbing's a close second. Yeah, I mean, I love everything. I mean, yeah, where to begin? I mean, I met my wife Lucy at a festival. We met at Creamfields when we were 19, 20, and that's a dance music festival near Liverpool. And we both have a love and passion for clubbing. I think that for me, clubbing is an amazing. I mean, it's nice to go out drinking and to be out and to be in a social environment. But for me, clubbing is a space whereby people can really feel free, and it's a space where you can really sort of just forget your inhibitions and forget your worries and stresses around you, and just feel completely who you are and just feel connected with the music that you love. And I know some people might think that sounds a little bit cheesy, but for me, when I'm dancing and on a dance floor, and it's a lot more difficult for me to do that, but when I do it, I just feel so happy and just feel like completely myself. I'm not disabled, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a dad, I'm not a husband, I'm not anything. I'm just Angus, and it's when I feel like the real Angus is who he is. And everybody needs that space for different things for different people, but for me, that's just listening to amazing music and just having a dance.
Maybe one of these days we can do a Limitless Travel muscle warrior clubbing program.
Yeah, Well, I have to go to Ibiza every year to research the whole
Of
hotel.
course, I'll have to come with you to assist you on this.
I'm building quite a compelling list, so it's certainly a challenge.
You'll need a number two and or a wingman, right? So, anyway, gear change. It's that time again for our second quick fire round, Angus. So, you ready for this?
I'll try and be quicker than the last time. I was thinking.
That's all right. No, that's good. You're doing really well, by the way. Best bit of advice that you give your younger self?
Just believe in yourself and keep being who you are.
Angus, tonight's dinner, what was it and who cooked it?
It was soup and half a BLT. I was running out of time after coming back from the office. But Friday night's dinner, I've actually got Edwin and Charlie coming up for the Six Nations, and I'm making a fantastic recipe from the Shoom. I don't know if anyone likes cooking. I love cooking. The Shoom's an amazing Indian restaurant, and their cookbook's brilliant. So I'm making a lamb ram.
Fantastic. I'll be there. What time's kickoff? Well,
I'd say 7 o'clock, but we'll probably end up eating about 11 by the time I'm actually finished.
So next question of the quickfire round. Urushuaia, Privilege, Octane, Eden, O Beach, Pikes, and the zoo projects Benimuso Park are all what?
They are fantastic clubs and places to go in Ibiza.
Very good.
Pikes is one of my favourite. It's actually where George Michael filmed the video for Club Tropicana, and there's a very eccentric hotel owner who used to have a lot of celebrities there.
Very good. Angus, is food heaven?
Food heaven, beef and red wine.
What, a fine Merlot or something more adventurous?
I'm really enjoying Cabernet Sauvignon, Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon at the moment.
Okay. Very good.
Although I had COVID in October, and ever since then, wine's not quite tasted the same. So I need to drink more of it to retrain my taste buds.
And Angus, is food hell?
Beetroot.
Most used tech gadget by Angus?
My laptop, all the time. I live on my laptop.
And the first job that Angus dreamed of having as a kid?
Playing rugby for Scotland.
And if someone was to play Angus Drummond in a movie, who would you want it to be?
Who would I want it? I mean, not aiming too high, but probably Brad Pitt. So.
Excellent. So come on then, let's talk about your fave movies. Let's start with your childhood faves. Here they are.
Great films. Yeah, great films. And Hook is still one of my favourites. I actually showed it to Alfie the other day for the first time, and he really enjoyed it, which I was really about. But I've always loved Robin Williams, and it's a great film. Really love Hook.
And what about these two? Next two coming up.
Oh, Batman. Yeah, Batman and Whiplash. These are films that I've learned to love later on in life. Yeah. Batman, I love everything about Batman, and I love this whole thing of him being a hero but never taking any credit for it, and this whole thing of him being able to achieve so much but really never taking ownership, it not being about him. And I think that is when you can really achieve a huge amount of success, and there's something about that that's always really resonated well with me. Whiplash is a film that I love because if anyone's seen it, it's about striving excellence, and it's a very extreme example of excellence. This guy wants to become a drummer, and J.K. Simmons pushes him to be the best, but he pushes him very hard, and he becomes an incredible drummer.
Excellent. And tell me about the Peanut Butter Falcon.
So this is a new addition to my list of favourites, and it was actually something I watched on the planes for the Caribbean, and I sometimes like just picking a bit of a different film, with something that I've not heard of before, and I loved this film, fell in love with it from the first moment. It's about a young lad, in his probably early 20s, who's got Down syndrome, and he is kept in an elderly person's care home with 80 and 90-year-olds, and is essentially locked up in his room. And he's always dreamed of becoming a wrestler, and his massive passion for wrestling, but they refuse to let him out. And so one night he escapes, and he manages to break out, and he goes wandering around the beaches of North Carolina, and bumps into a lad, and they become great friends. And I love this film just because it's a story that resonates. The way that disability, he's with a disability and is treated in that sort of way, and just believing that disabled people need to be locked up and believe he can't fend for himself, but yet he breaks away and he makes friends with Shia LaBeouf, and it's actually the lad with Down syndrome that is the one that teaches Shia LaBeouf a lot and helps Shia LaBeouf come to terms with his challenges rather than the other way around. And it's just an amazing story of friendship, and changes your perception and how this lad faces up to the adversity that he faces. So really good film. I'd recommend watching it.
Excellent. So listen, where's Angus's happy place?
Well, top three of happy a lot of the time, but I'd say my top three are on holiday in Cornwall on the beach in Mousehole.
Yeah.
In Barcelona, I love Barcelona, and I'm actually going there for a couple of months in a few weeks' time.
Okay.
And lastly, at Glastonbury Festival, that's when I feel my happiest there.
Very good. Just go back to Barcelona for a second. Are you setting up a Limitless office in Barcelona, or?
Yeah, that's the sort of excuse I've used. We're going there for a number of reasons. I mean, I lived there for a year when I left school and loved it. And really, I think it stems from last year in lockdown when it was so cold and we had to be outside all the time. And I never let anything stop me, but the cold is one thing that stops me. The ice, the snow, it makes my fingers freezing. And it's the only thing that ever stops me going out of the house. And, as a family, we've always talked about living somewhere warmer. And we said to each other, rather than talking about it, let's actually go and do it. So we decided to block out 3 months and then go and move to Barcelona as a sort of test to see if it was something that improved our overall quality of life. And I'm a lot more active when I'm in a hotter climate and walk around a lot more. And for me, that's really important. So we're driving there in a couple of weeks' time, and we're going to get the ferry from Portsmouth down to Santander and then spend 3 months in Barcelona.
Excellent. So my invitation to you to come and join me for a revisit or return visit to the North Pole and or Antarctica and the South Pole is off the table, right?
No, I'd much rather walk across the Sahara Desert, Michael.
Very good. Who makes Angus laugh out loud?
Oh, that is a good question. Alfie makes me laugh out loud a lot. He's funny. I think my friends, when I'm with friends, and just friends are so important because they know you for who you are. They know you from when you're a kid, and just my friends just take the mick out of me all the time for everything, as we do for each other. And it's just not, friends always keep you grounded, and never happier never laughing more than I'm with my friends.
Good stuff. So listen, if you could invite a couple of celebrities to your home for a pot of tea or maybe even a Guinness, who knows, who would they be and why?
This is always a very hard question to answer. But
Dead
for
or
me,
alive?
my 3 or 4. Well, certainly, I'd love to have Alex Ferguson round. He's always been a hero of mine, and I'm a Man United fan. But I think part of the reason why I've always loved Man United is partly because of Alex Ferguson. Yeah, and just he would love to just pick his brains for an afternoon. Yeah. He's more of an afternoon beer than a tea party, but he'd definitely come round. I'd like to meet Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. I read his autobiography a couple of years ago and was hugely inspired. Just such a normal guy that went to create this most amazing sportswear brand and global brand, and just a huge, get so much inspiration from him as a businessman. I also would like to meet Eddie Jones, particularly with the rugby coming up, even though he's the manager of England and the vote Scotland. Eddie Jones's mentality and mindset, and just he's a cheeky man, isn't he? And I think he would ruffle a few feathers. I'd like to put him and Alex Ferguson in a room together. And lastly, I love soul music and the power that soul music brings. And my favorite, soul musician is Aretha Franklin. I think she's an amazing singer. And just if I could, would love to have heard her sing. So I'd like to bring her around to the tea party to sing for us and keep us all entertained.
Love it. Excellent. Penultimate question, Angus. Can you tell us about 1 or 2 goals that you want to achieve in your life?
I think there's 2 goals for me. The first one, which is a more of is a personal goal for myself, and I think that is just to achieve success. I want, but I want to be incredibly successful. But for me, success is being able to be success in a number of different ways. You know, it's not financial. It's about, I want to create Limitless and grow Limitless to become a global travel company, but at the same time, always being present for my family and having amazing relationship with my family, always been around, you know, being able to see my friends, and also being able to look after myself and just to become the best version of myself. You know, I look, you know, I want 20 years time for 55-year-old Angus to look at 35-year-old Angus, and in fact, to know that 35-year-old Angus would be happy with 55-year-old Angus. And the other one, I want to get disabled people to space. You know, Limitless, we want to become a global travel company, but I want to take it one step further. You know, space tourism is happening. Disabled people always last for everything other bit of tourism, so why can't we be one of the first? And so I'd love to have sitting on a space rocket with yourself, obviously, Michael, and a group of other people, and taking us to space. And a dream of mine is to be able to see the world from space, because I think that when you see the world from space, you just realize how small and how little we all are. It gives you this level of perspective to realize that nothing in life is really that much of a problem.
I would absolutely love that to happen. I remember many years ago, I sat in the Virgin Galactic space pod in Dubai, which was at an exhibition, and started to dream in that moment. So if you can make it a reality for people with disabilities across the planet, Angus, hats off to you, right? And final question, and then we're going to jump back into the chat room to close off tonight's show. Angus, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much. If there's just one thing that we can all do to perhaps make the world just a slightly better place, what would that be?
Just be kind, I think, and never expect something back in return, but just be good and just be kind. Everything from when you're driving your car to letting that person out of the junction, to if you see somebody that needs a bit of help, just help them. And just say nice things to people. Sometimes people don't stop and just tell people they love them, or they don't just stop to look at their friends, their family, or even themselves, and just tell them that they love them and that they're happy, and just to look after them. So I think, you know, look after yourself and look after those around you, and try and spread the love and spread the kindness.
I'm going to jump into the chat room. Hi, Michael Angus. A great approach to travel and feeling normal. When I went to New York, it was both amazing, but also stressful organizing everything. Chris said, how can disabled travel be made more affordable? Do you want to give a quick answer to that one?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. And, you know, it's in a sense a challenge, and it's something that we want to overcome. Unfortunately, the level of time and effort that has to go into disabled travel, you know, the number of people that work on our team just to make one person's holiday happen is a huge amount of hours of planning. And, you know, but the hotels and people don't give you a discount. I think the only way it's going to be made affordable is companies like Limitless and other travel companies demonstrating to the world that disabled people aren't an afterthought, that we don't have to be forgotten about, that disabled people have money and spending power and want to go on holiday and buy products just like everybody else. And when you do that and make it show it, then things will become cheaper. So we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
I gather that your uncle is tuning in tonight and watching the show. Very excited to see. This is Richard, by the way. Good evening, Richard. Very excited to see all that Angus has managed to achieve, not letting himself be limited by his disability.
Hi, Richard. Great to hear from you.
And the New York comment, by the way, was from one of our Muscle Warrior beneficiaries, to Reese. So Reese, a Muscle Warrior, salute to you, sir. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Reese, just for your information, Angus is the captain of our Muscle Warriors Power Chair Football Club. And David says, Angus, you are a star. Thank you for being so inspiring.
Thank you very much, David. That's a very lovely comment.
So, huge thanks as we edge towards the hour to our guest tonight, Angus Drummond, for being our guest tonight. Here's my best Muscle Warriors salute from me to you, Angus. And for those that don't know, this is a visible symbol of hope, courage, strength, and joy and unity for all those with muscular dystrophy. And if you've enjoyed tonight's show, please head on over to musclehelp.com/power of 657, where you can support our 100k Power of 657 fundraising appeal. On this page, you'll see how your donations will help the Muscle Health Foundation charity to push on in delivering more muscle dream interventions in 2022. I can't begin to tell you just how difficult and challenging it has been over the last 24 months or so, and we desperately need people's support going forwards. And as those that know, charity exists for children and young people, just like Bertie here, with muscular dystrophy across the UK. So if you're able to make a donation or able to spread the word and garner some support for our continued efforts, from me to you, thank you so much. And Angus, as is the custom, if you happen to know someone whom you think would make a great in conversation with guest for our new series that kicks off in March 2022, please let me know, right?
Of course, I'll let you know.
Thank you. So here we go. Drum roll, breaking news.
Ooh.
We're back for the final show in series 2 on the slightly earlier date of Tuesday, the 22nd of February. So if you've got an interest or you are passionate about all things sailing, barrier-free boating, or you just simply love the freedom, we've heard that word used several times tonight by our guest, Angus Drummond, the freedom that comes from being out on the open water, or perhaps you're looking for an amazingly accessible boating experience like no other, then you'll not want to miss this very, very special show. My guest was paralyzed in a swimming accident in 1984. He uses a wheelchair. In 2007, he became the first disabled person to sail single-handed around Great Britain. And now, if that's not enough, in 2009, get this, he sailed across the Atlantic Ocean unassisted, meaning without any help. Think about that for a second. And in 2010, Jeff Holt was awarded an MBE for services to disabled sailing, and he was also named in 2010 Yachtsman of the Year shortly thereafter. Jeff is a patron and ambassador for several charities for people with disabilities. He is the author of a great book, which I've read, called Walking on Water. And he certainly does that. He wheels on water, and he's also a speaker. In 2011, Jeff founded Wet Wheels, a charity that we here at the Muscle Health Foundation have worked with over several years on our Wet Wheels Muscle Dream programs that bring immense joy and magic to so many of our muscle warrior families. And, you know, for those that don't know, Wet Wheels provides the opportunity for all disabled people, including those, by the way, with profound and complex disabilities, to access the sea in a safe, stimulating, and really, really rewarding way on board specially built, fully accessible powerboats. So, by offering the opportunity to experience the sea as active participants, active sailors, you take the controls, it's amazing. There's a fantastic story that sits behind this particular photo. And the Wet Wheels Foundation does fantastic work in helping those that wheel or step on board one of their accessible powerboats to not only build their confidence and have lasting memories of being out on the open water, but also improve physical and mental well-being, more important now than ever before. In Jeff's own words, quote, "There is something very, very special about being on the water. For someone with a disability, being at sea offers unparalleled freedoms. Your mind and imagination fill with things that didn't seem possible." So there you have it. You're all invited. So do join Jeff Holt and myself on Tuesday, the 22nd of February at 7:30 p.m. That's when we go live. So once again, on behalf of the Muscle Health Foundation charity, big thanks to tonight's guest, Angus Drummond. You've been a superstar. And to our StreamYard volunteer studio team, to Steph, and of course, to tonight's studio lead, Grace, for once again making it all happen behind the scenes. You guys rock. For now, have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.